Look, most people don't really see the cleaning crew. I mean, they're there, pushing their carts around, emptying trash cans, wiping down tables, but they're like background noise, you know? Just part of the scenery. It was a typical Monday morning at Riverside Industries in downtown Phoenix. People rushing around with their coffee cups, tapping away on phones, the usual chaos. Sarah Martinez, the CEO, was walking through the main lobby when she heard something that made her stop dead in her tracks. Someone was speaking Mandarin. Fluent, perfect Mandarin. Wait, what? She looked around, thinking maybe one of their international clients had shown up early. But then she saw him, a guy in a Navy janitor's uniform, maybe in his 40s, talking to this confused-looking businessman by the directory. The janitor, she'd seen him around before, always polite, always quiet, was calmly explaining directions in Mandarin. The businessman's face just lit up with relief. Okay, that's unexpected. But then it got weirder. The janitor turned to help a delivery guy who was looking lost, and boom, perfect Spanish. Then some vendor walks up with a question, and this guy switches to French like he's changing the radio station. Sarah just stood there thinking, what the hell? She'd been running this company for 8 years, dealt with international clients all over the world, hired expensive translators, and here was this janitor, this guy she'd probably walked past 100 times without really noticing, speaking 3 languages before 9 a.m. like it was nothing. I need to talk to this guy. Excuse me? Sarah walked over, trying not to sound too CEO-ish. The janitor turned around and she could see that little flash of, oh crap, did I do something wrong in his eyes. Yes, ma'am? That was Mandarin you were speaking, right? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes. And Spanish? French? He nodded. Also Portuguese, German, Arabic, Italian, and Swahili. I can read Latin too, but that's not exactly useful for everyday stuff. Sarah felt her eyebrows shoot up. 9 languages. 9. What's your name? Roberto Santos. This is insane. Roberto, do you have a few minutes? I'd like to talk to you in my office. She saw him hesitate, that look people get when they're not used to being invited anywhere important. Now? Yeah, if that's okay. The elevator ride up was awkward. Roberto finally broke the silence. I've worked here 15 years. Never thought I'd see the executive floor. 15 years? Jesus. You might be surprised how much things can change, Sarah said, though honestly she had no idea what she was doing. Once they were in her office, Sarah gestured to a chair. Please, sit. Roberto sat down carefully, looking around like he was in a museum. Her office had this big world map covered in pins, awards on the shelves, the usual CEO stuff. So, Sarah leaned forward, I'm going to be straight with you. I just heard you speak 3 languages like you were ordering coffee. How does someone end up working nights cleaning offices when they can do that? Roberto was quiet for a moment, then, do you want the real story? I wouldn't ask otherwise. Here we go. Born in Tucson. Dad worked construction. Mom was a home health aide. They didn't have much, but they pushed education hard. Got a scholarship to ASU, studied linguistics, was working on my master's when my dad got hurt on a job site. He paused, and I could see him deciding how much to share. Everything fell apart after that. Had to come home, take care of things. Got married young, had kids, wife left when money got tight, ended up working whatever jobs I could find to keep the lights on, grocery stores, warehouses. Eventually got this night shift because it meant I could be home when my kids got out of school. Damn. But I never stopped learning languages. Hit up the library, borrowed textbooks, listened to podcasts while I worked. It's just what I do. Keeps my brain from going numb, you know? Sarah sat back. This guy was brilliant. That was obvious. But he wasn't asking for pity or making excuses, just telling it like it was. You ever think about doing something different? He shrugged. Sometimes, but dreams don't pay rent. That hit harder than it should have. The conversation stuck with Sarah all day. Around 4 p.m., she couldn't take it anymore. She went down to the service level, first time she'd ever been down there, honestly, and found Roberto restocking supplies. Hey, sorry to bother you again, but I need a favor. He looked surprised. "You came down here?" "Yeah, listen, we've got this meeting upstairs. Some executives from our Sao Paulo office showed up early and our translator bailed on us. Can you help?" Roberto hesitated maybe 2 seconds. "Portuguese? Yeah, I can do that." 20 minutes later, they were in conference room 6A with 4 Brazilian executives who'd been sitting there looking uncomfortable and checking their phones. Roberto walked in, introduced himself in Portuguese, and the whole room just shifted. People relaxed, started smiling, making eye contact. He wasn't just translating, he was connecting with them. When one of the visitors made a joke, Roberto laughed and shot back with his own joke that had everyone cracking up. Sarah didn't understand a word, but she understood what was happening. After the meeting, one of the executives came up to her. "Where did you find him? He's better than anyone we've worked with." Sarah looked at Roberto, who was already cleaning up coffee cups. "Right here." Back in the hallway, Sarah caught up with Roberto. "You ever do professional translation before?" "Nah, just help people out sometimes. Hospitals, DMV, that kind of thing. Never had time for certificates or training. Kids needed me home." "Where are your kids now?" "Both grown. My daughter's a teacher in Flagstaff, son's in the Navy. They turned out better than their old man had any right to expect." This guy. That night, Sarah sat in her car for a long time before driving home. She kept thinking about talent, about potential, about all the recruiting they did and all the money they spent looking for the right people. And this guy's been here 15 years. The next morning, she called Roberto up to her office again. "I've been thinking about wasted talent, about how many people never get a real shot, not because they can't do the work, but because nobody bothers to look." Roberto just waited. "I want to create a position. Cultural liaison for international affairs. Someone who can handle our global clients, fix communication problems, deal with all the international stuff we're constantly screwing up." His mouth opened, but nothing came out. "You're qualified. Probably more qualified than half our management team, and you've already proved you can handle it." "This for real?" "As real as it gets. I don't have a college degree." "Here we go. You have something better. You have experience, you have skills, and you speak 9 languages. You think I care about a piece of paper?" Roberto crossed his arms. "You know what people are going to say." "I don't care what people say." Long pause, then, "I've never worked in an office. Never had a title or anything." "You'll figure it out." "I don't even own a tie." Sarah laughed. "We'll get you sorted out." Another pause. "What about my night shift? Who's going to replace me?" "We'll find someone, but nobody's going to replace you." Roberto looked down at his hands, then back at her. "You sure this isn't charity?" "This is business. Good business." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "All right. Let's see what happens." They shook hands. It felt like something important had just changed. By Wednesday, the whole building was buzzing. Roberto Santos, the night janitor, had been promoted to some kind of executive position. The rumors were wild. Some people said he was former CIA, others thought he might be related to Sarah somehow. Not everyone was thrilled. In the break room, a couple of marketing people were whispering, "I've got an MBA, and I've been waiting 2 years for a promotion, and this guy was mopping floors last week. Maybe he knows something we don't. Oh, please, it's just Sarah trying to look progressive." Roberto felt it the moment he walked into his new office on the 12th floor. Nothing fancy, just a desk, a computer, and a view of the parking lot. But to him, it might as well have been the Oval Office. The first real test came that afternoon. Greg Patterson, head of international operations, showed up with an attitude and a stack of files. "So, you're the new liaison?" he said, not bothering to sit down. "That's what they tell me." "You have experience with corporate environments?" Roberto smiled. "Only from the janitor's perspective." Greg didn't laugh. "I've got reports from Italy, contracts from Dubai, vendor issues in Sao Paulo. Think you can handle it? Give me a few hours to look it over." Greg dropped the files on Roberto's desk and walked out. Well, that was fun. That night,
Sarah stopped by Roberto's office. How was day one? I've had worse days. Greg give you trouble? He's not that scary. I've dealt with worse. She laughed. I figured. Then, can I ask you something? Shoot. Why didn't you say anything before? All these years, why didn't you ever mention that you could do this? Roberto leaned back in his chair. Who was I going to tell? And what was I going to say? Hey, I know I'm the janitor, but I speak 9 languages. People see the uniform and they've already decided who you are. That stung, because it was true. I saw myself in you, Sarah said suddenly. You were a janitor? No, but I was overlooked, a lot. My dad was a mechanic, Mom worked at Walmart. I worked 3 jobs through college. People thought I didn't belong in rooms like this. Roberto nodded. And now you decide who gets in the room. Exactly. There was a moment of quiet. Then Roberto said, I'm nervous about this. Good. Means you care. There's going to be people who hate this decision. They'll get over it or they won't. Either way, we're moving forward. After Sarah left, Roberto sat alone in his office. He thought about all the years of coming home exhausted, the nights he'd fallen asleep at the kitchen table studying language books, the birthdays he'd missed because he was working double shifts. He opened his desk drawer and put his old janitor ID badge inside, not to throw it away, to remember. Within a month, Roberto had proven himself. He fixed translation errors in old contracts that had been costing the company money for years. He handled a tricky situation with their Moroccan partners by speaking to them in Arabic, something that had never happened before. No one's ever done that for us, one of the Moroccan executives told Sarah privately. Not in our language. It shows respect. Sarah renamed one of the training rooms the Santos Room. No big announcement, just a quiet acknowledgement that meant everything. But not everyone was won over. Eleanor Hayes, a senior board member, flew in from Denver specifically to question Roberto's promotion. Help me understand, she said in a cold conference room meeting, how someone with no corporate experience is handling high-level international affairs. Roberto didn't flinch. Because I speak the languages, I understand the cultures, and I get results. You think this company should be run on instinct? No, ma'am. I think it should be run on results, and I'm delivering them. Eleanor stood up. You're a gamble. I'm used to being one, Roberto said quietly. My whole life's been a gamble. Something unexpected started happening. People began coming to Roberto not just for translation, but for advice. He became the guy you talked to before a big presentation, the person who helped you think through problems. One of the interns, a kid named Alex, asked him, How did you learn all those languages? One word at a time, Roberto said. The same way you will if you want to. Roberto wasn't just doing his job. He was changing how people saw each other. Sarah started a new program called Hidden Talents, designed to identify and develop people working in non-office roles throughout the company. It was Roberto's idea, and it took off. Eventually, Roberto was invited to speak at a business conference in Dallas. He told his story straight, no sugarcoating. I was never just a janitor. I was capable, I was ready, I was skilled, but nobody looked long enough to see it. So the next time you walk past someone without a fancy title, ask yourself, what am I missing? The room gave him a standing ovation. After his talk, a young woman approached him with tears in her eyes. My dad's a security guard and he speaks 4 languages. I used to be embarrassed to tell people that. Roberto put his hand on her shoulder. Don't ever be ashamed of where you come from. The only shame is in not seeing the brilliance that's right in front of you. The lesson. Never assume you know someone's worth based on their uniform, their job title, or their resume. Talent doesn't have a dress code. Brilliance can walk past you every day wearing a name tag and pushing a cart. If you've ever been overlooked or underestimated, keep going. The right person will see you eventually. And when they do, don't be afraid to take that seat at the table. Better yet, make sure there are more chairs for the next person who deserves a chance.